Empowered humanity theory is a framework of three attitudes and pathways of practice that lead to personal and communal empowerment. The theory behind it is if applied on a societal level, humankind will be empowered in the ways we've always sought. In this lesson, we'll discuss prioritizing mindsets of inquiry and compassion, along with practices that build kindness and compassion for self and others. On a sheet of paper, draw these 9 dots, then see if you can connect them all by drawing only 4 straight lines without picking up your pen or pencil. If you'd like, you can even try to see if you can do it with 3 straight lines without picking up your pen or pencil. Feel free to pause the video here and take as much time as you need. Before we get to the solution, think about your self-talk during that activity. Was your inner voice supportive and encouraging, or critical, judgmental, and encouraging you to just quit? If it's the latter, this is the natural response. Quite often, the first thoughts we have are based in either fear or judgment. Prioritizing thinking processes based in fear and judgment are disempowering, but with intention and practice, we can pursue the pathway towards empowerment, and that's prioritizing mindsets of inquiry and compassion. Okay, so here's some possible solutions. Notice there are a few different possibilities, but they all share one key strategy. That's right. We had to think outside the box to get the answer. As we previously noted, sometimes our thinking is the biggest barrier to our success and well-being. Let's examine some of these barriers and strategies to overcome them that lead to empowerment. These predictable thinking traps were identified by the Positive Psychology Center at the University of Pennsylvania. Take a moment to review each of the behavioral consequences. Have you seen examples of these thinking traps in your life, your surroundings, your community, your world? You may notice that these thinking traps are based in either fear or judgment. So the first instinct and the most used ways of thinking are prioritizing fear and judgment here. While fear and judgment-based thinking are important in regards to keeping us physically safe and healthy, when they are prioritized outside of keeping us safe and healthy, they can limit our potential, the potential of others, and decrease overall well-being, and even cause harm to each other. Prioritizing fear and judgment-based thinking is disempowering, but prioritizing inquiry and compassion leads to empowerment. Feel free to pause the video here if you would like to look at these in more detail. Another direction on the compass of empowered humanity theory is the attitude of prioritizing mindsets of inquiry and compassion and engaging in practices that build kindness and compassion for self and others. A key to empowerment is prioritizing mindsets of inquiry and compassion over those fear and judgment-based thinking. Let's take a moment to better understand this concept and put it into practice. At this time, take a moment to read the Notice the Narrative handout. It can be found in the description of the notes in this video. This is a good spot to pause and read. Now take out a blank sheet of paper and draw a line down the middle. At the top left side, write fear and judgment, and at the top right side, write inquiry and compassion. And think of compassion as an action taken to alleviate an element of noticed suffering. As you set up your paper, think about a situation, scenario, or dilemma that is actively on your mind that you have no solution for. And examine it first through a lens of fear and judgment, and then through a lens of inquiry and compassion. First, think through the situation solely through a lens of fear and judgment. Take a few moments to write down your key findings, comments, questions, and just general understanding of it. Once you are finished, process the same scenario through a lens of inquiry and compassion. What questions can you ask? What further information is needed? How can you get curious about the fear and judgment-based thoughts? And thinking about compassion, could the fear and judgment responses reveal some element of suffering that needs to be tended to? Now is a good time to pause the video and take as much time as you need to work through that dilemma, situation, or scenario. First from a fear and judgment responses, and then through inquiry and compassion. And on the slide, there are a few prompts to help with your thinking. Now take a moment to think about the idea of practices that build kindness and compassion for self and others. We previously described compassion as acting in a way to alleviate an element of noticed suffering. This can be alleviating your own state of being or assisting others to relieve an element that they're suffering with. Whereas kindness is just doing something kind for no specific or apparent reason. For example, we've heard the idea of random acts of kindness as a way to spread kindness to others. Now write down a few of these practices that build kindness and compassion for self and others. Think about it. What are some examples of these practices? And then thinking about how we become what we practice, see how many times in a given day you can engage in these practices that build kindness and compassion for self and others, and prioritize those mindsets of inquiry and compassion. Over time, these practices will develop and fortify the pathways to empowerment. Feel free to pause the video as long as you need here. We'll close with a quote from the 14th Dalai Lama. Only the development of compassion and understanding for others can bring us to tranquility and happiness we all seek. Go forward, be great, and be well.